I have a big problem. I love to buy new tools and toys for the shop, much to my wife's chagrin. But enough already. YouTube and woodworking magazines love to tell you that you absolutely need to upgrade or buy this particular thing to make cool stuff. But I want to let you in on a little secret. With a little creativity, you can make some pretty awesome stuff. Okay, sidebar. We do have to be realistic here. If you don't own screws and a driver, or nails and a hammer, or a bottle of wood glue, and if you don't have some sort of saw or even a piece of wood, well, you probably need to buy some of these things in order to get started in woodworking. Saying that, you don't need to spend a fortune on those things. You may even be able to beg or borrow some tools off of friends, neighbors, or your parents. Check local garage sales and Facebook Marketplace for deals. Nearly every large tool in my shop was purchased off Marketplace for huge savings, and generally replaced other tools that I had also bought used for really cheap. But where to find cheap tools, or even what tools you need, isn't actually the point of this video. I think we all just need a breather from the endless feelings of not having enough. It's exhausting, and for those starting out in this woodworking hobby, you need to know that if you set down the path of discontentment, you'll never reach the end. I recognize that my current shop setup would be considered drool-worthy by many and pathetic by a few others. But where I am and what I have shouldn't change how you feel about what you have or where you are in your woodworking journey. The crazy reality is that every time I get a better tool, I almost immediately see something else that I want, and that feeling of not having enough and needing more comes right back. I started out woodworking with a circular saw, an edge guide, and some glue and screws. And I built a lot of decent projects around my home, like my deck railing. It isn't fine woodworking per se, but hey, it worked. Or check out this bench that my son and I made a decade ago with a jigsaw, a drill, and screws and glue. Even when I decided to buy a table saw, I researched forever, saved up and bought a Skill job site saw for $400 Canadian, which was a ton of money for me at that point. And it was a great purchase. I made some awesome things with that too, like these projects I'm showing you now. And then about 6 months later, a bigger, better contractor type table saw came up on Marketplace for $200. So I upgraded, sold off my old table saw, and learned a valuable lesson about being patient and looking for deals. They come around. You just have to know what you're looking for. Whatever you do, don't buy into the hype that you read in forums or on your Facebook groups, or that us YouTubers push your way in order to convince the algorithm to actually serve you our videos. You don't need that new tool until you're actually doing something where you need that tool. And even then, if you're creative and have some extra time, there may be other ways around it. You may be able to accomplish the same thing without spending any extra money. Take the Festool domino, for instance. I really, really want one. Is it because I can't build something without one? Actually, no. Is there anything that I can build with one that I can't build without one? No. See, when someone pulls out their domino jointer, I don't think our first instinct should be to poo-poo it, but also shouldn't be to feel like we absolutely need it. Believe it or not, humans have been woodworking for thousands of years without the newest tools like a domino. These days, I can accomplish the same thing with this fancy doweling jig by Jessam, affiliate link in the description if you want to ignore everything I'm saying, for a fraction of the cost and do nearly everything the domino does. Or I can make my own disposable dowel jig for a couple of bucks out of some scrap hardwood. Or I can take this biscuit jointer my dad gave me to join boards and miters together. Or I can take my router and my table saw and make a mortise and tenon. Or if that's too much, I could also take a chisel and a mallet and a handsaw and make the same mortise and tenon. Or what about clamps? I started buying these expensive parallel clamps after some YouTubers told me I'm not a good enough woodworker if I don't have them. And truthfully, they're awesome. But guess what? These rusty old pipe clamps do basically the same thing, and they cost next to nothing in comparison. Or in a lot of cases, I could put a panel between a couple boards screwed to my bench and tap in a wedge to apply pressure. The point is, there's a whole lot of ways to skin a cat, though I'm a little confused why someone would want to learn how to skin a cat. The irony about my consumeristic tendencies is that in my day job, I'm a pastor. Now, I'm going to get pastoral for about 20 seconds here, so bear with me if you're able, and if not, just jump ahead a few seconds and you'll be fine. As a Christian, I know that Jesus gave the ultimate wisdom on right priorities when he said, "Don't store up treasures here on earth where moths eat them and rust destroys them and where thieves break in and steal. Store your treasures in heaven where moths and rust cannot destroy and thieves do not break in and steal. Wherever your treasure is, there the desires of your heart will also be." Whether or not you're a Christian is honestly besides the point here. What we can all take away from this is that stuff is temporary. Your shop could burn down tonight, a tool could break, or all your stuff could get stolen. But when you find contentment in the tools or space that you have now, and you start to practice creativity in your making, that is a kind of treasure that you can take with you until the day that you pass from this earth. I got this saw stop table saw used, but it's actually not much better than the saw I had before. I can make all the same stuff on it, and there is actually one annoying thing about this saw. When the brake goes off, sometimes for the stupidest of reasons, I have to wait for a new one to get shipped to me, or I have to drive into the city to buy a new one. I have this awesome tool that I just spent a lot of money on, but just like I said earlier, it can go out of commission, and then what do I do? Fortunately, I don't need a table saw to build cool stuff, and you technically don't either. I recently set off the brake on my table saw because my blade was set just a touch too close to the brake. Yeah, that's right, $140 down the drain, and it didn't even save my hand. I was in the middle of a project that needed to get done, and if more, better, and higher-end tools were truly the only way to get things done for this hobby, I would have had to stay out of the shop because there would have been no point in continuing to be out here making. But woodworking isn't called table sawing for a reason. It's working with wood. So I found alternate ways to do the same things. I hand cut some boards and realized I may need to practice with my hand tools a little more. I used other tools around my shop to accomplish the same things, albeit slower and less accurately, but guess what? The project turned out fine. Now's probably a good time to ask you to weigh in. What's a tool that you were convinced would make a huge difference in your woodworking that you later realized wasn't as useful as you'd been led to believe? Go ahead and leave that in the comments below. One example for me was a pin nailer. I already have a brad nailer, but I saw all these other YouTubers periodically using pin nailers and talking about how small and inconspicuous the nails are, so I went out and I bought one. And what I learned is that my brad nailer is almost always the better tool for the job, and that filling nail holes from both are basically the same amount of effort and show up just about the same amount. Yep, I could have saved myself $150, but I needed a pin nailer to level up my woodworking. Not so much, as it turns out. A comment I see so often on videos around the internet, and one that makes me really sad actually, is the ever-present, "I could have built that too if I had a garage with $10,000 worth of tools." But this is such a consumer-focused and self-limiting statement to make. Case in point, shaker-style cabinet doors are all the rage these days, and there are a bajillion ways to make them using tools like the table saw, routers, and specialty bit sets. But the tools and materials add up. And if you don't already have these on hand, it'll cost you a pretty penny, that's true. Recently, however, I came across this video by Wood Nerd, where he showed how he used his creativity to make faux shaker doors for $10 a piece using a circular saw, saw guide, glue, and some sandpaper. Anyone could figure out how to make doors like he does in their living room or their backyard and truly save a ton of money making good-looking cabinet doors for their kitchen or bathroom without spending a fortune on tooling. So what are you going to comment on a video like that? "I could build that too if I had..." Oh wait, I think I have a circular saw. Actually, I'm sure that video probably had some self-righteous wood snob saying that this isn't the right way to make cabinet doors and that the world will burn because people dare to think outside the box, which is funny because cabinets are actually just really big boxes and the doors go on the outside. So making cabinet doors actually is thinking outside the box. Anyway, what have we learned here? I think that most of us are tired of being told that what we have isn't good enough. Instead, I want to focus on making more than just accumulating. But the reality is, I'm probably still going to buy God's shiny new plaything. I do mean tool. But I'm trying to change my focus from what other people are saying I need to finding ways to smooth out areas of friction in my builds. I'm going to start asking myself what parts of woodworking I don't enjoy and look at what might help make that go faster. Or I can ask myself where the inaccuracies of that tool are actually limiting me versus what areas do I just need more practice in. See, there's nothing wrong with buying more tools if you enjoy it and if it helps you create. But don't let us YouTubers or forum posting woodworkers tell you that you're not good enough because you don't have such and such better tool. Instead, go and make something and buy my plans and merch because you're not a good woodworker if you don't. Link in the description. Sorry, that's not actually going to make you a better woodworker, but it does help out, as does clicking like, subscribing, commenting, and sharing this video on your socials. I really appreciate you all sticking around, and I hope this video brought a little encouragement to your day. With that, remember, make sawdust, not excuses.